Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. May all be happy. May no one suffer from diseases. May all see only goodness everywhere. May no one suffer from any kind of misery. May there be peace, peace and abiding peace everywhere by God's grace. Good morning, friends. The subject of my talk this morning is chanting of the holy name, its benefits and obstacles. That is the subject. Once one person came to Sri Ramakrishna, the Divine Incarnation, and said to him, "Sir, what is the goal of human life?" And Sri Ramakrishna said to that person, "The goal of human life is to experience divinity." He didn't say the goal of human life is to become extraordinarily rich or extraordinarily powerful or to become the president of a large country. No, he didn't say any such thing. He said the goal of human life is to experience divinity. How to do it? He said, you can do it by chanting the holy name of God and having the company of others who are doing likewise. They are also trying to chant the holy name of God and have their company. Then you will have inspiration from their lives. And we should remember that our mind is the repository of all our thoughts. Every thought that we think gets stored up in the mind. It is a bottomless lake, and all our past thoughts are stored up there. And some thoughts are selfish thoughts, and some other thoughts are unselfish. But the number of selfish thoughts is so much larger than the thoughts that are unselfish. And selfish thoughts are called worldly thoughts. It is these thoughts which do not allow us to manifest the divinity which we have in us. Because all the theistic scriptures of the world tell us that divinity is everywhere. Divinity is everywhere, equally present, but not equally manifest. In those living beings who have their minds, there is more manifestation of divinity in them. But other objects and things which don't have minds, their divinity is equally present but not at all manifest. Like those books and other things which you see behind me, they don't have minds. That's why divinity is equally manifest in them, but they are not equally present in them, but not manifest. But in a living being, divinity is more manifest. We are like so many light bulbs. If light is divinity, then some bulbs give out more light while other worlds give less light. See, if a person is there who is like a 10-watt light bulb, that means very little divinity is being manifested by that person's mind. And there are people who are like 1000-watt light bulbs. They are called saintly people. Much more divinity is manifested through their minds. Then there are some extraordinary people who are like multi-trillion-watt light bulbs. And they are the divine incarnations, like Ramakrishna, Sri Sarada Devi, Sri Chaitanya, Buddha, Jesus Christ, Rama, Krishna. They are multi-trillion-watt light bulbs. They are also called divine incarnations. God manifested in human form. Their forms are only the thin veneers which cover their divinity. And it is divinity which is everywhere, but not equally manifest. We have to remember it. And chanting of the holy name helps manifesting that divinity. If we have selfish thoughts, they are like garbage stored up in the mind. And they prevent the manifestation of divinity. But an unselfish thought is pure thought, and it helps in the manifestation of divinity. As I have often said, the owner and the object owned cannot be the same. So I own my physical body, so I cannot be my physical body. In the same way, I cannot be my sense organs, nor can I be my motor organs. Can I be my mind? No, because I am the owner of my mind. As the owner of my mind, I have to be different from my mind. The owner and the object owned cannot be the same. So, as long as I have my mind, that is a barrier between the manifestation of divinity which I have in me. That mind has to be got rid of. How can it be got rid of? By unselfishness. The ego has to go. If the ego is gone, then selfishness is gone. And then what remains is only divinity. That divinity which is infinity, eternity, and changelessness. So pure mind means divinity. The mind is gone there. Only divinity is there. That's why the highest teaching that we have in Hinduism is that everything is divinity. And the scriptures teach their followers that all are divine. Tattvamasi, you are divinity. I am divine. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Atma Brahma. That's what I call myself, my soul. That is also divine. Sarvam Khalidam Brahma. Everything is divinity. These are great sentences which are there in the scriptures of Hinduism. If these sentences are saved, then the scriptures of Hinduism are not lost. If the rest is lost, but these great sentences are saved, then we should say that the truths taught by the Hindu scriptures, that truth is still there. Hinduism has been saved. Even in Christianity, that teaching is there. When Jesus says, that is the highest teaching that he has given. Be ye perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect. Step by step he taught his followers. Those who were at a very high level, for them this teaching was there. Be ye perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect. That means be divine, know that you are divinity. So all saintly souls are free from egoism because they have gone beyond their minds. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Naham, Naham, Tuhu, Tuhu. It means not I, but thou, God, you are everything. That was his experience. And he was a divine incarnation. He came to teach us how to experience our divinity. And he is teaching us that is everything is divinity. That I should go, ego should go. Also, Hinduism teaches that what we think, we become. When I was born, I was nameless. Then I was given the name, whatever that name was. And then I went on thinking that I was that, I was that, I was that. And I became that. When I joined the monastic order, to teach me that I was not that name. I was something beyond name and form. My goal is to go beyond ego. I joined the Ramakrishna mission. In India it is called, our order. And elderly Swamis would say, Ramakrishna mission is Ramakrishna machine, that ego crushing machine. The false ego should go. When the ego is gone, only divinity remains. And that's what we are. And that is the goal of human life. What could be better than to manifest one's divinity? No, this is the highest achievement in life. And one who has experienced divinity does not have a false ego anymore. So we have to go beyond our ego. As the story goes, there was a king named Janaka who was a knower of divinity, and he was a teacher also, and a king. So one person came to him and said that he wanted to know his inherent divinity. Then Janaka said, then give me my fee. It is not traditional in India to charge a fee. But nevertheless, to teach everybody this lesson, it is mentioned that Janaka wanted his fee. That man said, but you have not yet given me the teaching. Why should I pay you your fee? And that fee at all, if it is given, it is called pranami. That means it is a symbol of one's salutation. It is a symbol of one's gratitude. Why should I pay you my pranami? Then Janaka said, when you will have attained the knowledge of divinity after that, where will Janaka be? Where will your teacher be? All will disappear. Only divinity will remain. So you won't be able to pay your pranami, saluted in money. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say, replace your ego with the name of God. Replace your I with thou. God, you are everything. But it is also mentioned in Hinduism, Shreyangshi Bahubhignani. To attain something which is great, you will have to encounter many hurdles, obstacles. So, to experience divinity, if we start chanting the holy name of God in such a manner that the holy thoughts will outnumber all other thoughts, selfish thoughts which are stored up in the mind. And when the holy thoughts will outnumber those thoughts, then they will lose power. Those selfish thoughts will lose power. And eventually, the mind will become completely unselfish, and then divinity will become manifested fully. This is the goal, and when the divinity will become manifested fully, then experience of divinity will be there. Then one will go beyond everything else other than divinity. Even that one or I will not be there at that time. It's a wonderful idea that is taught by Hinduism. But as I said, Shreyangsi Bahubhignani, to do something great, you will encounter many obstacles. So, chanting of the holy name, that will also have some obstacles. And the first obstacle that we encounter is boredom. A person who is asked, who has been asked to have to chant the holy name of God. When one starts chanting, then boredom may come. And here also I should mention one thing, that is, just any name of God will not work. You should have a powerful name. And such names are called mantras. They make us free from the bondage of limitations, selfishness. Mantra. This mantra has to be a very powerful one. A mantra which has helped somebody to experience divinity, that mantra is called Siddha mantra. It is very powerful. Just any word with the meaning of God will not help that much. But a Siddha mantra which has helped somebody to experience divinity, that mantra is very powerful. When we hear very young, we used to read storybooks, and there was a book called Arabian Nights. The many stories were there accumulated from Arabia, and we read. In that there is a story that there was a woodcutter who used to go to the forest and cut wood and make a meager living. Then one day when he went to cut wood and went to the forest, then he saw a group of robbers come on horseback, and they stood in front of the hill. And then the leader of that group chant aloud, "Open sesame." And as soon as he chanted that, a cave opened up in the mountain, and they all entered. They were all on horseback, but they entered that cave. They had robbed people of their money, gold, silver, and all those things. They entered there and they went inside and put that money to store up all this wealth. And then they all came out. Then the teacher again said, "Close sesame," said to the mountain, and then the cave was gone. So that woodcutter saw, oh, it is wonderful. Then when those robbers were gone, what he had heard from the leader of that group of robbers, he also chanted to the mountain, "Open sesame." And the cave opened up, and he entered there in the cave and collected a lot of valuable things, gold ornaments and whatnot, and came out and became richer. Had he chanted any other words, any other word other than "open sesame," then no cave would open up. So open sesame is Siddha mantra. That is, it helps one to experience divinity. So also one should go to a proper teacher and who has Siddha mantra in his talk, and that teacher will give you that mantra, by chanting which you will experience divinity. What is the mantra? Let me explain. Let me tell you the story of John. For his annual checkup, he went to his doctor, and the doctor examined him and said that he had cancer in his stomach. And cancer was incurable in those days. Ordinary doctors could not cure cancer. When he came home, he was very upset. His wife asked him why he was sad. Then he explained to his wife. He said, "I have cancer, that's why I am unhappy." Then his wife said, "Don't worry, you will be cured." Then he had a son, young son. The son said, "Daddy, you will be all right, don't worry." But that did not satisfy him. His sadness remained. And after a few days, he heard that the best cancer specialist of that country had come to that town. And he was lucky to get an appointment with that cancer specialist. The cancer specialist, oncologist, as such a specialist is called, said to John, "Don't worry, you have such a cancer that you will be cured. And hearing that, John's mind was at rest. He was no longer sad or upset. That this effect could not be produced by the words that had been spoken by his wife and his young son, because their words were not like that cancer specialist words. The cancer specialist words are like Siddha mantra. That's why that has had that effect on John's mind. There are some stories in Hindu scriptures to drive this point home. That is, they say first find a saintly teacher or one teacher who has such Siddha mantras in his or her stock. And with the help of that Siddha mantra, you will experience divinity. So I told you that if you want to do something great, there will be some obstacles. Shreyangshi Bhavignani, there will be many hurdles. What are those obstacles? First obstacle in chanting the holy name is boredom. Even though the person has got a Siddha mantra from his teacher, he was not chanting that holy name. And as a result, there won't be any effect noticeable in his mind. So out of boredom, he is not doing that. It is not as interesting as to watch the TV or reading the newspaper full of sensational news. It is doing something, the result of which will not be available immediately. He has to go on doing it for a long time. That's why there is boredom. This boredom can be overcome by not giving up chanting. And the second obstacle which one may encounter is wandering of the mind. The mind goes on thinking of one thing or the other. It keeps on changing. That wandering mind, how to get over it? Well, if your mind is not strong enough, you will not be able to control your mind. So there is a method. He said, okay, you say to your mind, okay, mind wander, I will watch you. And then after a while the mind will stop wandering. That is how that obstacle can be overcome. Then the third obstacle is rather common. That is when a person is trying to chant the holy name, sometimes this restful sleep will come. And this is called in Sanskrit laya. That's why in India, before chanting the holy name, a person is advised not to eat a full meal because after having a full meal, sleepiness may come. because so that's why one is advised to keep his stomach more or less empty. Then he can chant. And other than these obstacles, another obstacle can be there. These unwelcome thoughts will arise in the mind. The mind is the repository of all past thoughts. So some thoughts, they start coming to the surface. And what should one do at that time? One should keep on chanting the holy name. Then these thoughts will disappear. And those past thoughts, which are in the subconscious or unconscious mind, they come up. And so rejuvenated impressions of past thoughts, they can be an obstacle. But if in spite of that one goes on chanting the holy name, Siddha Mantra, then one can get rid of those rejuvenated impressions of past thoughts, and those thoughts will disappear forever. So Japa, which means chanting of the holy name, that is, it purifies the mind. Thinking of divinity, that means thinking of holiness, makes the mind pure and holy. And at that time, only a pure, unselfish mind can experience divinity. That's why even Jesus says, "Be perfect as the Father in heaven is perfect." Or he said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." Those whose selfishness is gone, they will experience divinity. In so saying, he is echoing what we have in the scriptures of Hinduism. So you need a proper teacher also. So I have already told you that thinking of the holiness of God makes the mind pure and holy. We have to fill our minds with only thoughts of God. When that will happen, we will be liberated from the bondage of ego. We will transcend our ego, which is a barrier to experiencing divinity. That is the utility of chanting the holy name. So, as a person who wants to experience divinity must have a proper teacher and must have Shraddha. Shraddha means respect, verging on adoration or worship for the teacher. And if one has such Shraddha for the teacher, then one can experience divinity through chanting. So this idea has been expressed through a story which we have in a scripture in Hinduism, which is called Chandogya Upanishad. That is a story of Satyakama and Gautama. Satyakama was a in our today's language, he was an illegitimate child. His mother had physical relationship with many men. So when Satyakama wanted to go and study under Gautama, then he came to know that he had to tell his teacher who was his father and so on. Then he asked his mother, who was my father? Then Satyakama's mother said to him, well, I'm not sure who was your father, because I had very close physical relationship with many men. In other words, he was an illegitimate child, so to say. But Satyakama was truthful. So he went to the teacher Gautama and he told that he did not know his father's name, and for reasons given to him by his mother. And the teacher was charmed by his truthfulness. And the teacher said to him, yes, I will help you. Then teacher pointed to a few hundred sickly cows and he said, you take these cows for grazing, and when the number will be 1,000, then you come back to me. So Satyakama followed his guru's advice implicitly, and he went to the grazing areas. Then strange things started happening to him. One day, the number of the cattle started going up. One day, a breeding bull, said to Satyakama in human language, he said, Satyakama, our number has reached 1,000. So you may now go back to your teacher. But Satyakama lit a fire where he would cook his food. And then the fire started speaking in human language and gave him the same teaching. That is, go back to your teacher. Our number of the cattle has gone up to 1,000. Then one day, a swan alighted before Satyakama and gave him the same information in human language. Then another bird, a loon, came down one day to Satyakama and also gave the same teaching. Your number has reached 1,000. Then Satyakama got all these teachings for these creatures. And then he, with 1,000 heads of cattle, he came back to his teacher. And his teacher, Gautama, said to him, Satyakama, your face is shining like one who has come to know divinity. Who taught you? Then Satyakama told him that all those creatures had taught him. A bull, a swan, a loon, and also fire taught him. That means the divinity present in all of them taught him. So through this story, this message is being given. That is, you must have implicit faith in the words of your teacher. I have seen that happen to some devotees of our order. They came and had spiritual initiation from our president who was visiting our center in India. And they had spiritual initiation, they got Siddha mantra from them. And eventually their lives changed totally. There was one lady, her name was Mrs. Das. She was very wealthy. But she was upset after her son married, and she could not get along with her daughter-in-law. There was sadness in her heart. And after getting this mantra, she was completely changed. Excuse me. She was completely changed. And then she would come to the center and sit near the front steps of the temple. And when people would come, she would greet them happily as though they were members of her own family, spiritual family. Her sadness was totally gone. She was full of spiritual joy. So chanting of the holy name can grant people the joy of spirituality. That is the gain one can have. Thank you all so much for your patience. May God bless us all.